Hey guys, these notes are for horizontal and vertical lines. Our essential question is, how do mathematical relationships help us understand linear relationships in the world around us? These notes are going to be they're going to be fairly short, so they're actually not that hard. They're actually a lot better than parallel and perpendicular. But we do have to review that because it does play a part in today's notes. So to review, parallel lines always have the same slope. So two lines, if they're parallel, have to have the same slope. And they also never intersect. And they never touch or cross. Okay? And then perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay? And their lines intersect, but not any two lines that intersect are perpendicular. So they have to intersect at a 90-degree angle. Okay? And just to remind you what opposite reciprocal slopes means, opposite is talking about our signs. So if one slope is positive, then the other one has to be negative. And then reciprocal means we flip that fraction. So if we had a slope of positive 1 over 2, we're going to flip the fraction, and now it's going to be negative 2 over 1. So you're either going to have one positive, one negative slope, and then one of your fractions will be regular and the other one will be flipped around. And that's just a review. All right. So first, let's talk about horizontal lines. So horizontal lines look like this. And if you can remember, it's kind of like a sun, like a horizon. Okay? So some sunglasses on my sun over here. Yay. Okay, so a horizon. So the slope of a horizontal line is always 0. And the equation for a horizontal line would be y equals a number. Okay? So let's do an example. If I'm going to have a y equals a number, I'm going to put a point at 2 here. And I want to draw a horizontal line through that. The equation of this line, so what axis does it go through? It goes through the y-axis at the point 2. So the equation for this one would be y equals 2. And this is kind of just a review. We did this in the last unit. Moving on to vertical lines. Our slope of vertical lines are going to be undefined. Okay, they look like this. And our equation is always going to be x equals a number. Okay, so that means it's going to go through my x-axis. So I'm just going to put a point through my x-axis here and then draw a vertical line down it. Okay, it goes through my x-axis, so it's going to have an x equals, and it goes through the point positive 3. So the equation for this one would be x equals 3. All right, moving on, writing equations of horizontal and vertical lines. This first page is actually super easy, but I'm going to go ahead and help you visualize it a little bit. So write an equation that passes through the point negative 2, 5, and 3, 5. So I'm just going to draw a small graph right here. I know we don't like to graph that often, but it doesn't have to be fancy. Just draw like 5 tick marks on each side. Okay. Now I'm going to plot the point negative 2, 5. So negative 2, 5 is going to be up here, and then positive 3, 5 is going to be up there. Now I want to draw a line that passes through them. So would this be a horizontal line or a vertical line? It's going to be horizontal because you want it to go through horizontally. Okay? It goes through which axis? It goes through the, what is going on? It goes through the y-axis. Okay? And which value does it go through? Positive 5. Want to know an even quicker way to see your answer here? Let's look at our points. Let's pick pink. Okay. This is your x point and your y value, and this is your x value and y value. What do you notice about both of those y values? They're both 5. And look at our equation. It was y equals 5. So it's basically the point that, or the value that they share. So just without even doing number 2, if it's asking you to write an equation that passes through 4, 2, and 4, negative 1, you're already probably like, oh, well, my x values are the same, so it's definitely going to be an x equals 4. But if you wanted to do this with a graph, you can. So I can draw a graph here. Okay, so I have 4, positive 2, and then I have 4, negative 1. I want to draw a line that passes through both of those, so that's going to be a vertical line, so x equals, and it goes through the point, goes through the value of positive 4. Okay, so you get the same answer regardless. You do not have to draw a graph if you can do it in your head or if you already recognize it. I am okay with that. There's not a lot of work for these. All right, number 3, write an equation that passes through the point 2, 4 and has an undefined slope. Okay, let's go back to the very beginning. Which one of these is an undefined slope? That's my vertical line. So my vertical line goes straight up and down. So it goes like this. And lines that look like that are x equals. Well, what is the x value of this point right here? 2. So it's just going to be x equals 2. All right. Number 4, it wants me to write an equation of a vertical line that passes through the point 5, negative 5. Again, I'm having a vertical line, so it's going to go straight up and down. And I want it to pass through the point 5, negative 5. I know that lines that are vertical have an equation of x equals, and so I want to look at my x value, which is positive 5. All right, so these aren't too bad. Don't overthink them. If you need to, you can always draw a picture. So for number 4, you can actually draw a graph if you'd like. So here's an example. I'm going to plot the point 5, negative 5 for you. That's going to be down there. I want a vertical line that passes through it. So it has to go up and down. That goes through that point. Okay, and it goes through the x-axis at the point 5. Okay, so you can always draw a picture if you want. You do not have to. All right, this next page is what you're going to most likely see on the test and on quizzes. Of course, the last page is also important to know how to do. Number 1, write an equation that is parallel to the x-axis and goes through the point 4, negative 6. Now these, I really do recommend drawing a picture. You don't want to make a silly mistake because these are really hard to get partial credit on. You either know how to do it or you don't know how to do it. Okay, so I'm just drawing some tick marks on this graph. Okay, now I want it to go through the point 4, negative 6. I'm going to plot that. That's down here somewhere. And I'm going to identify the axis that it wants to go through. So I want it to be parallel to the x-axis. So I'm going to highlight my x-axis so I can focus on that. I want that orange point to have a line that goes through it that is parallel to the x-axis. So it should not cross. So that's going to be a horizontal line like that. So it's going to be y equals, it crosses the y-axis at the point negative 6. Okay? You want it parallel, so you do not want it crossing that x-axis. Now, always make sure you're reading very carefully. This one, we want an equation that is perpendicular to the x-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and draw another graph. Okay? And it wants to be perpendicular to the x-axis and goes through the point negative 4, 5. That point's going to be up here. Now I want to focus on my x-axis, so I'm going to highlight that again. And I want it perpendicular. So I do want it to cross that purple axis, that highlighted purple area. So I am going to make it a vertical line because I want it to cross. I don't want it to be horizontal. And so the equation of that would be x equals, because it crosses the x-axis at the point negative 4. All right? If you think you got it, go ahead and try number 3 and 4 on your own and see if you got them right. All right. So number 3, we need to write an equation that is parallel to the y-axis. Again, I'm going to draw a picture. You do not have to if you can visualize it. Okay, parallel to the y-axis, I'm going to plot the point 2, 1 that goes there. And this time I'm looking at my y-axis. So I'm going to highlight the y-axis. I want it parallel to the y-axis though. So I do not want it crossing that purple highlighted section. So it's going to be, I'm so sorry. I always do that. I forget to turn my phone on silent. Okay. It's going to be a line that's parallel, so it should not touch the purple highlighted section. So it's going to be up and down, vertical. Now that line goes through my x-axis, and it goes through the point positive 2. And if you're wondering why positive 2, it's because that point has an x value of 2, so it's going through at positive 2. All right, and then last one of our notes, I promise I told you that it would be very short. Write an equation that is perpendicular to the y-axis. Draw a graph again. Okay, I'm going to plot my point 3, negative 2 right there. I'm going to highlight the axis that it's talking about. It's talking about the y, and I want it perpendicular, okay, to the y-axis. So it should cross it. So it's going to be a horizontal line, and that line goes through the y-axis. So it's y equals, and it goes through the point negative 2. Okay. So your homework is very similar to this. It's not very difficult. It just takes some visualization and some thinking.